I have a question. President Trump's voice, amplified by the microphone, suddenly filled the prestigious hall, silencing the room. It's not for the vice president. It's not even for Ms. Crockett. It's for you, the esteemed members of the press. My question is, why is she here? The war against the Vance family had left Jasmine Crockett a political leper, a ghost haunting the Capitol. The public had rejected her, her party had disowned her, and a federal investigation loomed. Her obsession, however, was a fire that refused to die, even amidst the ruins of her own making. She needed a new stage, a new angle. She needed to launder her reputation through an institution so respected, so neutral, that they couldn't possibly ignore her. She found it in the National Press Club. Through a sympathetic contact on the board, she secured an invitation for a special primetime fireside chat, vaguely titled Truth and Consequences in Modern American Politics. It was a masterfully disguised ambush. The plan was not to scream conspiracies, but to poison the well with calm, academic-sounding concerns, rehashing all her debunked lies about Shah. Vance, under the respectable veneer of journalistic inquiry. It was to be her comeback, her vindication. When the news reached the Oval Office, J.D. Vance felt a familiar sense of weary dread. She's trying to sanitize her brand, he said to President Trump. She wants to put on a suit, sit in a fancy chair, and pretend she's a serious person with serious questions, not a deranged stalker. It's a classic move, Trump agreed, studying the announcement. She thinks the hallowed ground of the press club will protect her. She thinks we won't touch her there. So, what's our move? Vance asked. Do I go? Do we send a statement? No, Trump said, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. We do nothing. You and Usha are going to have a quiet dinner at the residence. You are going to ignore her completely. Because tonight, Jasmine Crockett isn't your problem anymore. She's mine. Vance was confused. But you just said... I said we do nothing, Trump clarified. The glint in his eye, unmistakable. I, on the other hand, might just find myself in the neighborhood with a question or two. She wants her worst nightmare. She's about to find out what that really looks like. That evening, the National Press Club ballroom was filled with Washington's media elite. Jasmine Crockett sat on stage in a plush armchair opposite a well-known, smarmy moderator who was clearly in on the game. She looked poised, confident, ready for her resurrection. The interview began with softball questions, allowing Crockett to paint herself as a courageous but misunderstood public servant. Then, the moderator pivoted. Let's talk about the vice president's family, he said gravely. You've raised concerns about his wife, Usha Vance. Not personal attacks, but legitimate ethical questions about her past that have, frankly, never been answered. Could you elaborate on those for our audience? This was her moment. Thank you, Crockett said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. This was never personal. It was always about a pattern of questionable legal ethics. In her past career, of opaque family finances, of a troubling lack of transparency. When a person is one heartbeat away from the presidency, the American people deserve answers, not stonewalling. She continued for 10 minutes, weaving her web of lies with practiced ease. She spoke of the forged document as a disputed piece of evidence. She framed her racist insults as asking tough questions about cultural influence. It was a masterful performance of gaslighting. She felt safe, protected by the prestige of the venue. Then, the moderator turned to the audience for the Q&A session. A few journalists asked predictable questions, and then a figure rose from the back of the room and walked calmly to the microphone in the center aisle. It was President Donald J. Trump. A tidal wave of shock rolled through the room. Phones were whipped out, cameras flashed, the moderator stared, his jaw slack. Jasmine Crockett's face went white. She looked as if she had just seen the devil himself walk in to collect his due. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was her safe space. Mr. President, the moderator stammered. This is unexpected. Do you have a question for Representative Crockett? Trump adjusted the microphone, his movements calm and deliberate. He didn't even look at Crockett. He looked at the moderator and at the assembled press. I do have a question, Trump's voice boomed, clear and powerful, hijacking the entire event. But it's not for her. He paused, letting the tension build to an unbearable level. It's for all of you. He gestured around the historic room, the National Press Club. For over a century, a cornerstone of American journalism, a place for facts, for truth, a place of honor. He let his words hang in the air before delivering the kill shot. My question is, why is she here? The silence was deafening. He had changed the entire frame of the evening with a single, devastating question. I'm serious, Trump continued, his voice turning to ice. I am asking the esteemed members of the press, why have you given your prestigious platform to a person who is currently the subject of a federal criminal investigation for forging federal documents to frame the vice president's wife? A person who was publicly censured by her own party for lying? A person who was proven to have conspired with an extremist militia to physically assault the Second Lady? He finally turned his gaze on Crockett, who sat frozen in her chair, a look of pure, unadulterated terror on her face. You see, this isn't your worst nightmare, because I came here to defend J.D. Vance's family, Trump said, his voice dripping with contempt. The Vances don't need my defense. They have something far more powerful, the truth, and they are at home, having dinner, not even dignifying you with their attention. No, he said, turning back to the press. This is your worst nightmare, Ms. Crockett, because I am here to defend the integrity of this room from you. I'm here because you are a disgrace to the very idea of public discourse. Your presence here tonight is an insult to every honest journalist, every patriot, and every family in this country. He looked directly at her, and his voice dropped to a low, dismissive tone. You are irrelevant. A ghost. A sad, pathetic footnote. You have no power, you have no credibility, and you have no honor. He took a step back from the microphone. That was my only question. Thank you for your time. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the ballroom, leaving a trail of stunned silence and shattered careers in his wake. The event was over. The moderator sat speechless. The Q&A was abandoned. The cameras were all focused on the empty doorway through which the president had departed. Jasmine Crockett sat alone on the stage, under the hot lights, utterly and completely humiliated. He hadn't just defeated her. He had erased her. He had walked into her sanctuary, exposed her as a pariah, and left without ever acknowledging her as a worthy opponent. It was, just as he had promised, her absolute worst nightmare. In his ultimate defense of the Vance family, President Trump chose not to argue with Crockett, but to question her very right to be on the stage. What made this strategy of rendering her irrelevant so much more powerful than a direct rebuttal of her lies? Share your analysis below, and for more stories of masterful strategy, be sure to subscribe.